Many people watch Formula One, but very few truly understand it, and you might be one of them. You can watch the race, enjoy it, and get excited, and still not understand why a 10th place is celebrated like a victory, why in the middle of the race does a radio order force you to let a rival pass, or why all of a sudden does one of the cars go into the pits while all the others stay out on track. If you're just getting into the world of Formula One, or if you've ever felt like you were missing context to understand what you were watching, this video is perfect for you. But it's also perfect for those who have been following the sport for several seasons, because 2026 is not just another year of Formula One. The arrival of new regulations marks the beginning of a different era, with many changes that will completely alter how the cars are designed and how the competition unfolds on the track. And when a sport enters a new era, understanding its foundations becomes more important than ever. In this video, we're going to go over, step by step, everything you need to know to understand Formula One, from the simplest rules to the most complex concepts, explained in a clear and simple way. For that, 3 well-known content creators will join me to help explain some of the key points. So let's start with the basics. What is Formula One and why is it so special? Formula One is the most prestigious and demanding motorsport category in the world. It is the highest level a driver can aspire to, and the place where the fastest and most advanced cars on the planet compete. But Formula One is not just about speed. It's strategy, technology, and precision taken to the limit. And although it's a sport, it's also a show designed for the audience. Now, let's start with the basics. Why is it called Formula One? The term formula refers to the technical regulations that all cars must follow, and the one indicates that it's the top category, the number one in motorsport. That being said, what really makes Formula One special? To begin with, the cars are single-seaters, meaning they're designed for just one driver. Additionally, they don't have roofs or fenders, which makes them extremely light and fast, unlike what happens in other competitions. Another key difference is that each team designs and builds its own car. There are no standard models. Each team interprets the regulations in its own way to try to find an advantage. That's why Formula One is also a technological competition. Their cars can exceed 300 kilometers per hour and generate G-forces capable of pushing even drivers trained for extreme situations to their limits. In summary, Formula One is the combination of 3 fundamental elements: engineering, talent, and spectacle. But understanding what Formula One isn't enough. The most important thing is to understand. How does it work? If you've ever watched a Formula One race, it's very likely you've asked yourself this question. Why do some drivers celebrate so passionately even if they didn't win?
Okay, that's the checkered flag, P8, P8.
Wow, bravo.
The answer is simple, but it's key to understanding the sport. In Formula One, winning a race is important, but what really matters is the total points throughout the whole season. Every position counts. A second, a third, or even a 10th place can make the difference at the end of the year. Each season is made up of a calendar of races called Grand Prix that take place in different countries. In each of them, the drivers earn points according to the position in which they finish. And at the end of the season, the driver with the most points becomes the world champion. Now then, how are those points distributed? In a moment, our first guest will explain it to us. Arturo from NL Paddock. But for now, let's stick to the essentials. The top 3 finishers go up to the podium. There they receive their trophies and celebrate with champagne. So, after every race, you'll see a scene like this. But before we continue, there's something fundamental you need to know to really understand how Formula One works. There are 11 teams, and each one has 2 drivers, which means that in every race there are 22 cars on the track. Until last year, the category had 10 teams. But starting in 2026, Cadillac will join, which will debut with a duo formed by Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas. This addition requires some adjustments to the regulations, something we will discuss in more detail later. Returning to the championship, each driver aims for the best result, while each team needs both of its drivers to score points. And this brings us to one of the most important aspects of Formula One, there are two different championships. On one hand, there's the Drivers' Championship, which is won by the driver who scores the most points at the end of the year. On the other hand, the Constructors' Championship is decided by combining both drivers' results from each team. This system can create very particular situations. For example, in 2024, McLaren won the Constructors' Championship thanks to the combined points of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. However, the Drivers' Champion was Max Verstappen from Red Bull, who individually outperformed the rest. This shows that the best driver of the season doesn't always race for the best team, and that the fight between both championships can create internal tensions. And this is where Formula One gets really interesting. A driver always wants to win, but a team has to think about what's best for the Constructors' Championship. That can lead to strategic decisions that benefit the team, but hurt a particular driver. This is where team radios come into play. The messages that engineers send to drivers during the race. You've probably heard something like hold position or let your teammate through at some point.
Okay, so Fernando is faster than you. Did you understand the message?
This type of message is known as a team order, and although they are usually quite clear, drivers don't always obey them. Some accept them without any problem. A clear case is Oscar Piastri, who let his teammate pass when he was fighting for the world championship against him.
Lando's catching up to him, and he's catching up to him on this lap.
It's been like Hungary last year. We pit for team reasons. Please let Lando pass, and you're free to race.
I mean, we said that a slow pit stop is part of racing. I don't understand what changed. But if they want me to do it, I'll do it.
Others choose to ignore them.
Both cars are being driven, so just hold position, please.
Wait, what? Hold positions? But he's slow.
However, team radios are not only used to give orders, they are also essential for strategy, to report on the condition of the car and to make key decisions during the race. Later in the video, we will go deeper into this. Now, why are the teams so focused on the Constructors' Championship? Although the driver's title is the most recognized for the teams, the Constructors' Championship is the most important one. Why? Because it's the one that distributes the money. Formula One generates billions of dollars a year, and a large part of this income is distributed among the teams according to their position in the Constructors' Championship. Though Cadillac's arrival will adjust these figures starting in 2026, the logic remains the same. The higher a team finishes, the more money it receives for the next season. And more money means more investment, a better car, and more chances to win in the future. Because at the end of the day, the car largely determines how far a driver and a team can go throughout a season. A good car can win races, while a bad one, with a lot of luck, can barely fight for points. That's why, even though the Drivers' Championship is the most remembered, the Constructors' Championship is the most important. But then, one last question arises. Who is in charge of making all this work? Formula One is overseen by two main entities. On one hand, the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile is responsible for the sporting and technical rules, safety, and penalties. On the other hand, Liberty Media is the company that manages the business side of Formula One, commercial rights, broadcasting, and advertising agreements. And although they work together, they don't always share the same goals. The Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile seeks a fair and safe Formula One. Liberty Media, a profitable show at all costs. Now that we understand what Formula One is and how the competition unfolds over a season, it's time to see what a race weekend is like. For that, our first guest, Arturo from NL Paddock, is going to explain to us step by step how a Grand Prix works, from the practice sessions to the Sunday race. But first, if you're finding this video helpful, subscribe.
Hi, I'm Arturo from NL Paddock. Today we'll discuss things quickly and clearly about how a Formula One weekend works. A race weekend under normal conditions is structured over 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Except for places like Las Vegas, where things begin on Thursday, the general logic remains the same. Friday is the day for free practice, Saturday is the day of truth with one lap, and Sunday is when the points are awarded and the stories are written that we spend weeks discussing. On Friday, Free Practice 1 and 2 begin, the famous Free Practice 1 and Free Practice 2, and no, they're not filler sessions, even though sometimes they might seem like it. Here, the teams aren't competing against each other but against the unknown. It's their first time on the track. They test setups, analyze tires, measure degradation and fuel consumption, how the car reacts to the asphalt, curbs, wind, everything. The more information you gather here, the stronger you'll be on Saturday and most importantly on Sunday. Free practice. 1 is all about pure exploration, seeing what works and what doesn't, basic adjustments, comparisons, understanding the car's behavior. Free practice 2 or free practice 2 is a step up because it's run at the same time as qualifying, and that matters. This is where qualifying simulations start, the short runs with minimal fuel, the soft tires. And for the spectator, it's probably the most interesting practice session because it lets you get a sense of who's really fast, who's just simulating, or who's completely lost. Saturday starts with the third free practice, which is basically the final dress rehearsal. At this point, there's no time left to try anything new. Here, details are fine-tuned, balance is sought, and decisions are made about how to set up the car. Some people sacrifice more in qualifying to have a stronger car for the race, much like Checo Perez. But even so, the third free practice is the last moment to get the car ready before the real action. And that real action is none other than qualifying. Qualifying determines the starting order for the race and is divided into 3 knockout rounds, Q1, Q2, and Q3. In Q1, all the drivers will participate, which in 2026 will be 22, and they will have 18 minutes each to set their best lap. The 6 slowest drivers are eliminated and take the last positions on the grid based on the time they set in the session. The fastest eliminated driver will start ahead of the slowest. Simple and harsh. In Q2, the same dynamic is repeated, but now with 16 drivers and 15 minutes. Here, 6 more are eliminated who will start between 11th and 16th position. And finally, the 10 fastest drivers make it to Q3 in a 12-minute session where everything is decided. The fastest driver, the one who sets the best time, the one who does the perfect lap, takes pole position. Starting first is not just a strategic advantage, it's pure prestige. It goes down in the books, it goes down in history, and that matters a lot in Formula 1. With the grid set, Sunday arrives, the race. A Formula 1 race must cover approximately 305 kilometers or last a maximum of 2 hours. Lap count varies by circuit. On short tracks like Monaco, there are many laps, and on long circuits like Spa or Las Vegas, there are much fewer. But the goal is always the same, to complete a distance of approximately 305 kilometers. The starting grid, or the starting order of the race, is based on the positions the drivers achieved in qualifying. And once the lights go out, only the top 10 score points for the championship. These points are distributed as follows. The winner gets 25 points, second place gets 18. And third place, the last spot on the podium, gets 15. From there, fourth place gets 12 points. Fifth place gets 10. Sixth, 8, 7th, 6 points. 8th, 4 points. 9th, 2 points. And the last place gets just 1 point. During the race, the rules require at least 1 pit stop and the use of at least 2 different tire compounds. You can't run the whole race with the same type of tire. However, there are exceptions, like races in the rain where it's allowed to complete the event using only intermediate or full wet tires. And at some specific circuits like Monaco, Qatar, and even others, they've imposed 2 mandatory pit stops to force some strategy on tracks where overtaking is almost science fiction. But anyway, this is the traditional format. But not every weekend is the same. On sprint race weekends, the story changes quite a bit. Here, there's just one 60-minute free practice session, and it starts Friday. On the same day, after the first practice, the sprint shootout, a qualifying session, sets the grid for the sprint race. This qualifying session is shorter and stricter than the regular one, the times are reduced, and the teams are required to use a specific type of compound. Generally, the medium tire is used in SQ1 and SQ2 and the soft tire in SQ3. No weird strategies, everything is more compressed, more tense, and more direct. On Saturday, the sprint race is held, a short event of up to 100 kilometers, where only the top 8 score points for the championship. These points are distributed as follows: 8 for first place and 1 point less for each position after that. That is, the second place gets 7, the third gets 6, and so on until the 8th, who only gets 1 point. In the sprint race, only 8 drivers score points, unlike the regular race where 10 do. But anyway, once the sprint race is over, that same Saturday the traditional qualifying takes place, the usual one, the one I explained earlier. This is the one that sets the grid for the big race on Sunday. So, in summary, the sprint race weekend is defined as follows. Friday, practice and sprint qualifying. Saturday, sprint race and regular qualifying. And Sunday, the main race. As you can see, everything is tighter with less margin for error. Oh, and for those wondering why this format exists, the short answer is that Liberty Media has tried to make more money with this invention. But anyway, looking ahead to 2026, this sprint format is already confirmed for 6 Grand Prix events: China, Miami, Canada, Great Britain, Netherlands, and Singapore. 6 races where any mistake will be costly and where there won't be much room to hide. And that's how a Formula 1 weekend works in both formats. The key isn't just driving fast, it's knowing when to push, save, take risks, and most importantly, when not to mess up. Because in this sport, many times understanding these kinds of things makes more of a difference than the car itself. And well, this is where I wrap up in this video. And if you want more Formula 1 explained straight, without beating around the bush, without diplomacy, and with opinions that sometimes hurt, I'll be waiting for you on my channel. Warning, this content is not suitable for sensitive people.
Thank you for the explanation, Arturo. Now let's move on to one of the most important elements of this sport, and that on more than one occasion has decided races and even world championships: strategy. In Formula 1, the fastest car doesn't always win. Strategies play a key role in the outcome of each race. A well-executed strategy can allow a slow car to end up winning.
Now Alpha Tauri, Daniel Kvyat is free to chase Esteban Ocon.
Yes, my God, yes. Oh my God, guys, my God, guys. We did it again.
While a miscalculation can ruin a victory that seemed certain.
Come into the pits now. Come into the pits for hard tires. Stay out. Damn it. Why? What are you doing?
One of the most important elements in any strategy is the use of tires. Every weekend, Pirelli, the official supplier, selects 3 different compounds from its range, which go from the hardest to the softest. That's why before the start, you usually see something like this.
Meters, Pirelli has brought the softest tires available to this race: C4, C5, C6. We're expecting a race with even the risk of rain.
But what does it really mean? Soft tires, identified by the red color, offer more grip and allow for faster lap times, but they wear out more quickly. Medium tires, colored yellow, aim for a balance between performance and durability, and the hard tires, colored white, last much longer, although they offer less grip and speed. In a normal race with a dry track, drivers are required to use at least 2 different compounds, which means they must make at least 1 pit stop. When the track is wet, dry tires stop working because the car loses grip completely. In those conditions, special tires are used. On one hand, there are the intermediates, which are green, designed for wet tracks or light rain. And on the other hand, there are the extreme wet tires, which are blue, designed to evacuate large amounts of water and prevent aquaplaning.
He's going to cross the line again. That's going to be another penalty. No.
The problem is that if the rain stops and the track starts to dry, continuing with wet tires can be a disaster. They overheat and the driver loses a lot of time.
Here's what happens with the track. The rain tires are worn out, but slicks aren't suitable yet.
Choosing the right tire at the right moment can be the difference between winning a race or ending up with a catastrophic result. But strategy isn't just about choosing tires. Degradation also comes into play. Tires don't just wear out as the laps go by. They also lose performance as the rubber heats up and deteriorates. In extreme cases, they can even explode.
He has a puncture on the straight.
On the straight. Raikkonen is under pressure. Valtteri Bottas went over the debris.
If a driver uses soft tires, he will be faster at the start, but he will have to pit earlier. With hard tires, he can stay on track longer, although with less pace. So each period that a driver spends on track with the same set of tires is called a stint. With this in mind, teams can use different strategies to gain positions without needing to overtake on track. The 2 most well-known are the undercut and the overcut. The undercut happens when a driver pits before his direct rival. By going out with new tires, he can set faster laps while his rival stays on track with worn tires and overtake him when he makes his stop. The overcut is the opposite. In this case, a driver stays out on track longer and manages to keep a good pace while his rival has already pitted. If this strategy works, he can come out ahead when he finally makes his stop. Choosing between undercut or overcut depends on factors such as tire degradation and the car's pace at that point in the race. On the other hand, unlike what happened in the past, Formula 1 cars cannot refuel during the race.
There is the fuel hose with some problems. There's gasoline splashing.
That means the fuel also has to be managed from the start to the checkered flag. And now that we understand how a Grand Prix weekend works and what happens during a race, it's time to talk about the real protagonists. Let's start with the teams. A Formula One team is not just a group of mechanics and 2 drivers. Behind each car, there are hundreds of people working to make sure everything works perfectly. From track strategy to the development of every part of the single-seater, every team member plays a key role. But besides the main drivers, who are the people responsible for making all this work? The team principal is the leader of the team. He makes the most important decisions, from choosing the drivers to selecting the engine supplier. He also manages relationships with the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile sponsors and various technical areas of the team. In short, he is the one who sets the sporting and strategic direction of the team. Race engineers are responsible for making sure the car is properly set up for each session. They analyze data in real time and constantly communicate with the driver over the radio. Each driver has their own race engineer, who is their main link to the team during the competition. Through the team radios, they inform him about strategy, race pace, and possible changes to the plan. But these communications are not only technical, they also share moments of euphoria.
Oh my God, Max! Oh my God!
Moments of tension.
You can push harder. Push all the way.
I'm doing it. Shut up.
And some are quite peculiar.
Something's loose between my legs.
Mechanics, they're responsible for preparing, repairing, and adjusting the car. Every pit stop depends entirely on them. A team of mechanics can change all 4 tires in less than 2 seconds. That can make the difference between gaining or losing a position. They're also the first to act if the car suffers damage during the race. And during qualifying many times, if a driver has damaged the car, they have to work against the clock to repair it before the next session. Strategists are the brains behind the decisions during the race. They analyze data in real time and decide when to make pit stops, which tires to use, and how to respond to the rivals' moves. Many times, they have only seconds to make decisions that can completely change the outcome of a race.
Which is won by Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari to the delight of thousands of Germans. They won that race because they had the right strategy.
Aerodynamicists, they are the engineers responsible for designing every part of the car to optimize its performance on the track. In modern Formula One, aerodynamics is everything. And this will be even more important with the changes coming in the 2026 season, something we'll see later on. Their job includes designing the front and rear wings to generate downforce, optimizing the airflow to reduce drag and increase speed, adapting the car to different types of circuits. Small aerodynamic changes can mean tenths of a second per lap, enough to decide a pole position or a victory. Simulator drivers and reserve drivers. While the main drivers compete on track, the simulator drivers work at the factory testing setups and strategies. The teams have very advanced simulators that replicate every circuit and different race conditions, which allows them to test adjustments before bringing them to the real car. Many of the strategic decisions seen during the race have already been rehearsed beforehand in the simulator. On the other hand, each team has a reserve driver ready to replace a main driver in case of illness or injury.
He can't compete in today's race or qualifying. The British driver Oliver Burman, Ferrari's reserve, takes his place.
These drivers also spend many hours in the simulator, and in some cases, they take part in practice sessions. In the end, every person within a Formula One team plays an essential role. From the team principal to the last mechanic, everyone works with the same goal: to make the car as competitive as possible. But even with a great team, nothing works without someone capable of pushing that car to the limit. And that's where the drivers come in. Formula One is the dream of practically every driver, but very few manage to make it, unlike other sports where talent can open many doors. In motorsport, there are other factors that also matter a lot. Money and connections play a key role. From the very first stages, the traditional path begins in karting, where drivers learn the basics of driving and competition.
What happened to Max?
Nothing, just an incident in the race.
If they stand out, the next step is the single-seater categories like Formula 4. That's where they start competing with more powerful cars and begin to attract the attention of teams and sponsors. From that point on, the most talented and best-supported drivers move up to Formula 3 and then to Formula 2, the direct stepping stones to Formula 1. But that's exactly where the path becomes much more complicated. To compete in Formula 3, a driver needs a budget of nearly 800,000 euros per season. In Formula 2, that figure can exceed 2 million euros per year. That means being fast is not enough. You need the support of sponsors, investors, or directly from a Formula One team. That's why many talented drivers never make the leap. simply because they don't have the necessary resources. A very clear case is that of Felipe Drugovich. He won Formula 2 in 2022 and had the level to reach Formula 1, but he couldn't find an available seat. In 2025, he ended up seeing how his dream of debuting in the category was slipping away for good. His only option was at Aston Martin, where he was a test driver. But that seat belongs to Lance Stroll, the son of the team owner. Stroll, unlike Drugovich, never had to worry about finding a place on the grid, thanks to his father's investment. He debuted in Formula 1 at just 18 years old, and today he is still competing with a team built around him. Talent is important, no doubt, but money is still a decisive factor. And even so, making it to Formula 1 doesn't guarantee anything, because in this category, getting there is just the first step. Staying is even harder. Each season, only 22 drivers have a seat, and every mistake can cost them their place. Now that we understand how Formula 1 drivers get there, it's time to talk about the machines they compete with. The most advanced and fastest cars in motorsport, especially considering the huge number of changes that will come with the new regulations and the 2026 single-seaters. And for that, our second guest will join us. Someone who was already in last year's video and whom I appreciate a lot. But first, if this video is helping you understand Formula 1, subscribe.
The single-seaters under the new regulations bring several physical changes. First of all, they will be 20 centimeters shorter in wheelbase and 10 centimeters narrower, which makes them quite a bit smaller, and also 30 kilograms lighter. This aims to change the course of the evolution of single-seaters towards lighter and more agile ones. Aerodynamics, on the other hand, also changes significantly. First of all, the front wing will have 3 elements instead of 4, and the rear wing will have 3 instead of just 2. You may have heard these elements will be movable and can change. Their angle of attack between 2 positions to use one setting in the corners and be faster, there generating more downforce, and another setting on the straights to reduce downforce and drag and be much faster in a straight line. We will also have a much simpler floor without venturi channels, with a much smaller diffuser and cleaner edges. Also, the barge boards, which are the areas of the car behind the front wheels and also the front wing, will have an in-wash effect. They will direct the air inside the car to avoid affecting the cars behind. We will also see smaller wheels, 25mm narrower at the front and 30mm narrower at the rear. And the rims, or wheels, whatever you call the metal part of the wheel, will continue to be 18 inches. And even though we will continue to see the same colors, white, yellow, red, chemically, each of these compounds will be different. Because since they are narrower, they have to withstand greater forces per unit of area. And now, one of the most important changes. The power units for 2026 come with a lot of changes. First, the internal combustion engine is very similar to the one from the 2022 regulations with some minor changes, but we won't get into that. On the other hand, the motor generator unit, heat is removed, which is an electric generator motor, which is located in the middle of the turbo to help it accelerate and also recover energy that helped charge the batteries. This is being removed. But on the other hand, the motor generator unit, kinetic, which is the other electric generator motor, which helped the engine accelerate the car and also recover energy during braking. This one gets bigger. It will have 350 kilowatts for the 2026 regulations. Here's something for the more technical audience. The split turbo distribution will be banned, which is when you put the cold side of the turbo on one side, separated, and the hot turbine on the other. And in the middle was this engine that's going to be eliminated now, which is the motor generator unit, heat. This, along with the ban on variable length trumpets, is going to make internal combustion engines have a bit more lag than those from previous years. And to sum up, basically the complete power units are going to have pretty much the same amount of horsepower, but they're going to have a bigger electric component since the motor generator unit, kinetic, is getting larger. They'll also have a smaller internal combustion component since fuel flow will be limited. So basically, it's the same power obtained in a different way.
Thanks to Slicer for helping us understand the more technical side of Formula 1. Now we're going to move on to an aspect that's a bit less complex, but just as important. And for that, our last guest of the video will join us.
Adrian, it's your turn.
Yes. Hello! My name is Adrian and I'm here with the sole and particular purpose of explaining something very important to you if you want to understand Formula 1.
I'm talking about the flags. The flags, not the other ones. The flags are colored signals that you'll see both on screens and as waving cloths by the marshals around the track. They are meant to inform the drivers about certain situations happening on the track.
For example, they're used for safety. Imagine this, there's a crash on the track.
And now imagine that the rest of the drivers kept racing as usual.
Oh my god, what a blazing sun. But what the heck? It would be dangerous. That's where, for example, the yellow flags come in. They're responsible for informing the drivers that they have to slow down because there's some danger on the track, and double yellow if that danger is greater. The green flag, on the other hand, is used to inform that the danger is gone and they can resume the competition. Now, if the crash or incident continues, the safety car flag would come out, which indicates the appearance of a very nice Mercedes sports car called the safety car. Its mission is to group and slow down all the drivers who are required to follow it without overtaking each other, while people clean up the incident on another part of the track. The safety car is interesting because it can totally change a race, especially if the Grand Prix is boring or lacks action. This little car can change the whole dynamic because it bunches everyone up. That's why the most common reaction when you see a safety car is something like this. No, it's not very entertaining, huh? Yellow flag? Is there a car stopped? Safety car! Safety! Go! Now, if the crash escalates to chaotic levels or the track is in very dangerous conditions, that's when the red flag comes out. It informs the competitors that they have to return to the pit since the race is paused. The checkered flag indicates the end of the race or session. The blue flag means you have to let the race leaders pass if they are lapping you. There are many other flags, but these are the key ones to know for understanding Formula 1. Now, what would happen if a driver ignores all of this? Formula 1 would become something like, I'm coming, race against Hamilton, no risk, echo. That's where penalties come in. And even though it sounds crazy, drivers on the track can't just do whatever they want. That would be bad. That's where penalties come in as a punishment, received by drivers in case they cause incidents, ignore rules, or run someone over, which are basically time penalties, time that gets added to your race. That is, you can cross the finish line first, but if you have a penalty, the more penalty seconds you have, the later you finish. You may need to serve penalties while stopped in the pits. Some are minor, others harsher. And if a driver behaves very badly and is a danger on the track, that's when the black flag comes in, like a red card, meaning you're expelled from the rack. So to sum up, the flags warn, the penalty is correct, and anyone who doesn't listen, well, and that's it. Please subscribe to my channel.
Thanks a lot, Adrian. Also subscribe to his channel. Now that we understand all this, an inevitable question arises. How dangerous is this sport really? Formula 1 is a sport of extremely high speed, and by nature, high risk. The cars can exceed 350 kilometers per hour, and in every race, the drivers push the limits to the maximum, but the question is inevitable. How dangerous is Formula 1 really? In its beginnings, a deadly sport. In its first decades, especially during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, Formula 1's safety was practically non-existent. The circuits had no runoff areas, the cars offered little protection, and the rescue teams took several minutes to reach an accident. The result was tragic. Dozens of drivers lost their lives on the track. But with every tragedy, Formula 1 learned and evolved. Today, Formula 1 is considerably safer thanks to a combination of advanced engineering, technology, and strict regulations. One of the most important advancements was the introduction of the Halo in 2018. It is a titanium structure placed over the driver's cockpit designed to protect their head in the event of an impact. When it was introduced, it was heavily criticized.
I don't like it. I won't even sit in the car, so the excitement was gone before I even got in the car.
When I see the car, it's ugly. You know, Formula 1 cars aren't ugly.
However, as time went by, it proved to be decisive. On more than one occasion, the Halo made the difference between life and death. A clear example was the 2018 Belgian Grand Prix.
He gets hit now and spins.
In situations like this, the Halo prevented fatal consequences. Another fundamental element is the head and neck support, a device that limits sudden head movement in the event of a crash and drastically reduces the risk of serious neck and brain injuries. Without this system, many accidents that people survive today would have had a tragic outcome. Currently, single-seaters are designed to absorb impacts and protect the driver in the best possible way. For this, two elements are key. First, the survival cell, which is the cockpit where the driver sits, is built with ultra-resistant carbon fiber. Its goal is to remain intact even in extreme impacts. And secondly, the crumple zones, which are parts of the car designed to break and absorb the energy of the crash before it reaches the driver. The logic is simple. The car gets destroyed, but the driver survives. Also, safety doesn't depend only on the single-seater. Modern circuits are also designed to minimize the consequences of an accident as much as possible. One of them is the Tech Pro barriers, which absorb a large part of the impact energy. On the other hand, the runoff areas, made of gravel or asphalt, help slow down the cars before they reach the wall. Every detail is designed to prevent an accident from turning into a tragedy. However, despite all these advances, Formula One will never stop being a dangerous sport, because at the end of the day, every driver who gets into a car knows they're taking a huge risk in pursuit of glory. Precisely for that reason, another change was the ban on refueling during the race, a measure taken to reduce the risk of fires and serious accidents. So if you want to better understand this decision, watch this video where I explain the 5 reasons why Formula One banned refueling during pit stops.